Hi there, stand by. A very interesting guest today, a big market DJ, playing all the hits. Hello, and welcome. God bless you for joining us today. Former altar boy, big market DJ, author of the book, Life of the Roadie, the Gypsy in Me. Sounds interesting. Our guest today is Ronnie Rush. Ronnie, it's great to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Where does the title of your book come from?
Well, that goes back, both my parents being Italian, it goes way back sitting in the kitchen with my mom making some spaghetti sauce. And as she was stirring, she looked over at me because I was out Sunland Park, I was up in the mountains. She said, "You're a gypsy." Okay. So, later on, I figured that out, but because I was always on tour or whatever. But when I looked for a title for that, I thought, okay, Life of a Roadie, because that's what I was for all those years, setting up amplifiers, guitars, and all that. And the gypsy, kind of like Life of a Roadie, the gypsy in me.
Yeah.
Because you have to kind of have that little gypsy in you to be
Well,
able to deal with the road.
Yeah, I can get behind that. As an actor, I was on the road a lot, and as a professional ball player, touring different town every day. So it's arduous.
You're moving and grooving.
Now, all the travel and excitement of traveling with famous bands and meeting superstar celebrity musicians and so forth. What was that like for you?
Well, it's sort of like the cream of the crop, as they say, how everything rises to the top. When you're at the top, traveling, you're meeting those people at the top. So if we're in concert in Chicago, Colorado, and the Carpenters, Karen and Richard Carpenter, they happen to be in town, we would go and visit them during their show, go backstage, say hello, because the group I was with opened the show at the Hollywood Bowl for the Carpenters. So it's all kind of, there's those people that you meet while you're traveling. And if you get lucky, New Orleans or whatever, and they happen to be in that town doing a concert, you just go by and say hello and watch the show. And so that's that level that you're at for that moment in time, because you got a #1 record. But once that #1 comes down, then you're back in the nightclubs, and then the writing's on the wall.
Who are the other celebrity acts that you really enjoyed meeting?
Well, let's see. There's Boss Skaggs. He's a jazz artist. Karen and Richard Carpenter. I met Karen Carpenter, shook her hand. And Leonard Skinner, rock and roll group from the South, down in the Delta. And just a slew of others that there's Hank Williams Jr., you met him. And they all are kind of the same level. They're musicians, they have hits on the radio, you meet them, and it's for a few minutes, you say hello and all that, it's a great exchange. And then you're off to another town, another city, another state, and you do that until the record company says, okay, that's it, your record's off the chart, now you gotta do whatever. So either come up with another hit record, but that's the experience that I witnessed, that like there's a lot of rich people, they all kind of hang out together.
Yeah.
Same thing, musicians, they all kind of the same level. They're all these musicians that have hits on the radio, you're meeting them on the road.
How did that affect your life? That was early on for you. How old were you?
I was in my early 20s. Yeah. The group was 30, 29, 30, 31, 32. So I had mentioned that to the bass player. I go, the people are, the crowd is coming up to me and goes, oh, you're so young. And you're with this group. And Joe Frank of Hamilton, Joe Frank and Reynolds, that's the group I was with so many years. He said, just tell them that you're just as professional as we are. So, you know, to a 22-year-old kid, I just said, okay, that makes sense. So that's pretty much it. But yeah, I had to put out 110% to keep up with them, you know, every day, 12 hours a day, 15 hours a day, you know, do it again the next night, next city, you know. So there was no lagging around until you got home. You know, sit on the beach and relax, but R&R. But you got to just hoof it. You got to just do it. And when you're 22, you can, you know, you got enough energy. At least I did. I had a good work ethic, so, you know, I was a hard worker anyway, so I just applied that.
If you could pick a group from that era that you said, my golly, I wish I was a roadie for them.
I would say the Moody Blues.
Really?
That's my favorite group, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, personal favorite. And yeah, that was.
So you're 22 years old, you're going out on the road, and how many years did you do that?
7 years with them, 71 to 78, and then they broke up, and then started traveling on the road again, driving an 18-wheeler. And that was good for me, therapeutic because of all the deaths in my family.
Yeah.
The group broke up, and then there was another death in the family, and then there's another one right after that, and it's in the book. And basically, what I learned was that you can't, there's no shortcut. You know, after a couple deaths of the immediate family, you learn that you have to go through, you know, that thing that gets a hold of you. It's like a black cloud. There's no shaking it. You can't hide. You just go, okay, for 4 seasons, I got to deal with this. And then after that, it'll subside. It never leaves you, but at least you could get on with the program. And then there'd be another death in the family. Same thing. Okay, another 4 seasons. And it just got to a point where once, when my mom passed away at 50, breast cancer. So when I left her gravesite, I said, that's it. I've got to, you know, I mean, from 22, 23 to 29, 30, I lost all those years.
Now, in those transition years,
I mean, those
what kept you going?
Well, being Catholic, knowing about Our Lady of Fatima, and all of these things that come to you because there's the foundation. I think that if I didn't have that foundation, I would have found the Bay Bridge somewhere. Probably couldn't afford the $7 to get across it, but to jump. But you know, I had a foundation to fall back on, and that's why I always wound up back my Catholic upbringing. So
You mentioned Our Lady of Fatima. You have a special devotion?
I believe it because of the articles that were written by the people that were there. I mean, we weren't there, but they were there, and so I guess the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John is kind of you know, we have to take it at face value that exists, but and there was word of mouth handed down to those people, and then they wrote about what they heard. Kind of, you know.
You were an altar boy at Our Lady of Lourdes Church in San Fernando Valley.
Yeah, I was. I was really proud of that.
How old were you when you started?
I guess about 10, maybe 11. And the priests that were there and the nuns that were there, they all, you know, they were all there. I just have some really fond memories of them.
I never got to be an altar boy as a youth.
Especially when they were pulling on my ear.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
The nuns would be teaching class and...
In my school, you had to have really good grades to be an altar boy.
Yeah, well, I was a good student. You know.
I never got to I served my first Mass, I was 22.
Oh, well.
So finally, after a long period of time, when my academic record had faded in the past, I was able to serve Mass.
Yeah, it was, like I said, that ritual, the serving, the privilege of taking the gold chalice and setting it on the altar, because the priest would say, okay, Ronnie, take this out. It was all kind of real holy for me, that whole...
That was kind of like being a roadie but not being on the road.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. just a few
Learning
steps
all
in.
about that.
But yeah, so there's some good memories there of the holiness about everything.
In your book, you talk about potential aspiration to the priesthood.
Yeah, I did have that in sight, and I was called on the carpet, literally, because, we're there ringing the bell or whatever, and during communion. So the priest, when Mass was over, he goes, recite the Confiteor to me in Latin. And I got about maybe 3 or 4 words.
Confiteor
and that was
Deo Omnipotens.
Omnipotente. And I got that far, and I still remember that.
Yeah.
Confiteor Deo Omnipotente. And he just said, okay, just whisper it in English, but because I didn't Latin, and I'm 11, 12 at that time, and I just couldn't catch the English was my language, so trying to learn Latin just wasn't.
I had Latin in school. It wasn't so hot.
Yeah.
But then when the teacher said, you're not going to be in the football game today unless you pass this test, I got my only A in my Latin career.
Well, see, there you go. So you counteracted that.
Let me ask you about now, big controversy about abuse in the church today.
Yeah, that troubled me. It was like a kick in the gut when I heard it. I mentioned that in my book and how I dealt with that, and still dealing with the idea that being an altar boy and knowing that I witnessed the holiness there, and I thought maybe it's an East Coast thing. I mean, I was writing the book because I mentioned it in the book, and I'd never experienced that on the West Coast, and of course the East Coast is a whole nother world. They don't even like the West Coast anyway. I mean, the East Coast people,
East is East and West is West.
Yeah, they look at us differently. We're on the beach and surfing.
Yeah. Well, as an altar boy and a young kid in church, and you hear about these occurrences, how did you get through that?
Well, as an adult, hearing that was very troubling for me because I just I couldn't believe that a priest was being accused, and then later on, they were falling out like left and right.
Yeah.
They were.
Hold those thoughts.
Oh.
I'll be back with that. We're going to take a little break. I want you to stay with us because some very interesting things have happened to Ronnie. We'll talk about the day he thought he heard the voice of God.
Oh yeah,
that must have been an
still
extraordinary
with me.
thing.
It was awesome. Yeah.
And also about a psychic experience related to your mom.
Yeah, I could let that go. Yeah.
I think it's on page.
It's in the book. 70. Yeah, it's in there. It's in the book.
Okay.
But I'll tell you about it. Yeah.
Okay, we'll be right back. Ronnie, when we were talking last, we were talking about troubles in the church and how your Catholic upbringing helped bring you through. But there's one particular person that was helpful. Father Spitzer.
Yeah, a blind priest now. He wasn't blind, he went blind. And identified with him because of the holiness that I witnessed as an altar boy. But I was devastated to hear that what was happening in the Catholic Church, the scandal. And I watched him weekly and realized that he was blind. He was a blind priest once he could see. And every week he's like, PhD, but he's a priest. He's what a priest is to me, as growing up in the Catholic school. And I watched him, and after a couple of years, I really kind of fulfilled, it came back to me, the belief system of the church as a core. And so whether the Lord had him be blind so that he could draw the lost sheep of the Catholics that left because of the scandal. But for me, and there might have been a lot of people watching, I was one of them, I'm back almost 360. So back to, I've always been Catholic, and I've always believed in God, but the process of what was happening to the church disgusted me. But Father Spitzer brought me back around. So I don't think about it as much as a negative.
How much does prayer figure into your life?
Well, a lot. That the rosary, the constant, you know, you light some candles for other people, you pray the rosary for other people. Mainly it's for other people, you know. Once in a while you go, hey, I need a prayer here. I need some doors open. So you get a little selfish there sometimes. But I think that if you're praying for other people, it's basically good for you as well. So I think it's a two-way street, even though it's going out. You light a candle for them to get well. You say the rosary so that they can get well. And sometimes you get an answer that you don't, you know, you're praying for someone and they don't make it. You're praying for someone and they don't get well. That's a little troubling for me. But I don't stop. You know, I mean, I continue to figure out, maybe on the other side we'll have an answer for that.
The power of prayer is very powerful. My son recently had an accident that was life-threatening. He broke his neck on his honeymoon. And from only being able to move his right hand, he is now walking, driving a car, looking forward to going back to work. And I know that prayer had a great deal to do with that. Statistically, people who had his accident don't recover. They end up in a chair with very little that they're able to do.
You got to witness the results of prayer.
Yeah.
The people I'm praying for, a lot of them, I won't never know how they come about.
Yeah.
But you know, the ones in my immediate circle of friends, some I pray for and they don't make it, and some I do and they say, hey, I'm cured. So there's that. Okay, that, you know, I'm glad that that's still working. But you still keep up the process.
Do you have a favorite Bible verse?
Well, I guess so. Jesus was by the Sea of Galilee. He kind of likes that place. And the apostles were there, and Jesus is making fish for them. He's cooking fish. And one of the apostles says, what's it like on the other side? And he said, hey, don't concern yourself with the other side. Be busy living. When I read that passage, I don't know what passage I was reading, because I could read that same passage a week later and get something else spiritually. But what I got is that there's something special, even when you're leaving the gravesite of a friend, there's something special about the Lord saying, be busy living. And so I use that all the time. I mean, in my frame of reference, personally, you know, be busy living.
You write in your book about what you called a psychic experience that was connected with your mom after her passing.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Well, I'll be succinct. I got the call from Los Angeles. One of my sisters called and said, you know, you need to get here as soon as you can. And I'm in Sacramento, and it's 8 o'clock at night. Back then, there's no airport open. So you can't rent a car. So I just grabbed a suit, jumped in the car, and hightailed it. And I remember our conversations over the years with my mom when she was making spaghetti and we were having, you know, dinner and stuff. She was talking about how to get out of a ticket. So it was always kind of a topic about the police department and getting a ticket and all that. So anyway, so I'm doing about 70, 75. And I pulled into the gas station in Fresno, got back on the road, doing 70, 75. And I'm like, okay, she's in a coma. She knows my voice. I'm going to talk her out of the coma. Yeah, that's what I'll do. And I looked to my left, and the highway patrolman that was sitting shotgun, there was two of them, he looked at me and he went, and I went, oh, yeah, okay, right, I'm in the zone. And I looked at the clock, it said 10:30. So I finally get to Los Angeles and find the hospital. I go in, there's nobody around, there's no nurses, there's nobody around. Where is everybody? So, you know, looking around for somebody, and a woman comes out and said, could I help you? And I said, yeah, I'm looking for my mom. I want to talk her out of her coma. And she said, I'll be right with you. She went and got the doctor. He came out and said, Ronnie? I go, yeah, I want to talk to my mom. He goes, well, sit down. I go, well, I've been sitting for 7 hours. I want to talk to my mom, get her out of the coma. She knows my voice. And he said, your mom passed away. And I, you know, I was like, well, what time? And he said 10:30. And I went, wow, that is interesting. So that was my psychic experience, because when she got the diagnosis, I would visit her and said, you know, I had said to her, kind of like the apostles, you know, Mom, I'm asking you because I'm your son. When the time does come, will you try to communicate with me? And she looked at me and said, sure, I'll see what I can do. So that was sort of my one-time experience. I mean, I don't experience any of that kind of supernatural stuff, but at that moment in time, I realized the highway patrolman, he didn't stop me. He just waved me, just kind of slowed down. So
My sister called me when my father was passing. So I got there as fast as I could to Boston.
sure.
We touched down on the tarmac. My phone rang. She said, he's gone. And my thought was, if I had gotten there a half hour earlier, I would have been by his side at that terrible moment.
Yeah.
So I figured, to help myself, he was sparing me that part of the grief that I would hold. So psychic connection, sometimes, I don't know. But if you're prayerful, you can easily make that connection. Now your life changes again. You go from roadie to truck driver, chauffeur. You go to broadcasting school.
Yeah, I'm
you
on
get
the
a
radio.
job in you're a DJ.
All the hits all the time.
How many years?
20 years.
20 years. On cool radio.
Cool 101, playing the hits. That's when I realized I was in my element. I was in the zone, on the air, live, playing the hits. And you just sort of, I guess it's like if Joe Montana, the football player, throwing a pass and the guy catching it.
He knows as soon as the ball is in the air.
Something about Joe, he was the greatest quarterback. And there's something about when just watching him, you knew he was not to be an accountant. You knew he was to be a great quarterback,
Yeah.
and that's what he was.
Let me ask you about how the business changed, and when you got to the end of that broadcasting career, you can tell us a little bit about
Yeah,
the difference.
I'll be quick on that. The 20 years started to unwind, and automation came in, and so basically you go down the hall, pretend you're on the radio, and I did that when I was a kid. And well, they said, well, we're coming in, we're getting computers, and we won't need too many jocks, but if you want to track your show, go down the hall, record it. Takes about an hour to do a 3-hour show, 4-hour show. We're only going to pay you for the 1 hour. And then I remember my grandfather at the dinner table, the unions, you know, because they would, I instantly thought, well, I'm not going to do a 1-hour show and have you hear me for 4 hours and not get paid for the 4 hours.
What was your favorite song of that era?
Oh, I guess it would be Hamilton, Joe, Frank, and Reynolds, Fallen in Love.
Fallen in Love.
That's
Cool.
the group I worked for all those years.
Well, before we close, and Ronnie, it's been a pleasure to have you with
bet.
us.
Thank you.
Author of Life of a Roadie, The Gypsy in Me, available at Amazon, Book, Barnes & Noble, and all of that. Lord bless Ronnie, others like him who depend on your love and inspiration in their lives. Give us the grace to live equally as gratifying lives, knowing that you're always with us. Thanks again, Ronnie. And always remember, Father Manning used to say, may Jesus always make you smile. Well, that's the wish for you, but you have to be part of that. So remember to let God make you smile. Come back again next time. Good to see you this time. Thanks to our studio audience and those people at home who are contributing to this ministry. It's important. God love you.